Alrighty, well, we are going to talk about open house mastery, which I know we've got different levels in here. We've got people that are holding open houses already and people that are newer to the business. So we'll be hitting it from all angles. And we're going to make it kind of more interactive. So my first question is going to be, what does Carpe Diem mean?
Seize the day.
Exactly. I knew you guys would know that. You're so smart. And the reason I wanted to start with that is because in order to seize the day of an open house, we really have to start earlier in the week. People think that just show up and do the open house quite often, and you're going to succeed. But if you really want to make money at open houses, you have to put your all into it and do it the biggest and best way possible. So we're going to talk today about 6 ways to seize the day at your open house, and the idea being that it definitely starts earlier in the week, and but it can pay big dividends if you do it correctly. So, I've got to hold my notes up here. There's what I've seen is there's generally 4 reasons to hold an open house, and what do you think they are?
Find a buyer.
To find a buyer,
Sell the home.
sell the home,
Get another listing.
find sellers, and that's one of the things people don't always think about, but you can easily pick up sellers from an open house too. And what's the 4th one?
Advertise to your farm.
Oh, okay, there's a 5th one.
Okay.
To pacify a frustrated seller
Oh, that's
Right.
who
so true.
often is overpriced or there's some reason why it's not selling. And oftentimes when you as the agent are looking to hold an open house, you know, you kind of put it out there, I need an open house for this weekend. Well, what agents are often going to hand to you are their homes that need to pacify a seller because there's some prominent negative. So what might a prominent negative be that would be something that wouldn't necessarily be your best home to hold open? Because when you're holding an open house, you want to choose your stage wisely. So this might have a prominent negative, this home. But more realistically, or this could be actually a very clever home to sell. But what would be a prominent negative that might be why somebody is trying to have you hold their home open that you'd want to kind of maybe steer clear of?
It's been on the market already. Long time.
It's overpriced and so it's on the market for 6 months.
Okay, so what if it's been on the market for 2 months and it has been overpriced, but it just got a good price reduction?
Still not great.
It's going
It's
to have
old.
a negative and a positive. So yeah. So what else might be so price would definitely be one of the big negatives, like that would be like a prominent negative. What else might be a prominent negative?
Hard to flag in. Poor curb
Yeah.
appeal.
Very good. So the condition inside or out could play a big negative. Also, being hard to flag in. If it's way back in a tract. I remember one time we went to visit an open house that one of our agents had back in Talega. And I didn't realize Talega even went back that far. We literally lost the trail of the signs. We couldn't find the open house for a while and then finally looked up the address and found it. But it was that hard to find off of the flagging. So yeah, being really difficult to flag in. What about, what else?
Angie,
Mhm.
I recently encountered 2, just through trials and errors, but one was a listing that was on the market for over 30 days,
Mhm.
maybe 31, and even though it was their first open house that I hosted, it wasn't that much of a success either. And then the other one was due to insurance complications of the neighborhood.
Okay, yeah, those could be kind of some hidden ones that would be difficult. But I don't know that I wouldn't necessarily, that would play a negative. It would play against the idea of being able to sell that particular home, but you could still maybe pick up buyers. But it would be also, you wouldn't necessarily want another listing in that neighborhood if it's already got those problems. So you've got prominent negatives there that are gonna play against you. So, how will a prominent negative work against you? Like so you're saying you don't necessarily wanna have one that has that. How's it gonna play against you in an open house?
Fewer people.
Yep, you're gonna get fewer people through. What else?
People might think you don't know what you're doing.
Exactly. It actually it puts you in either an apology stance or that, yeah, you don't know what you're doing. It has a negative reflection on you, and yet this is your stage for the day, and all of a sudden it's undermining your ability. So it's a lower possibility of selling that home too. So it takes that out of the equation. Like we said, in a neighborhood where it's got difficulty with insurance or what have you, you aren't really going to want a listing in that neighborhood, so it takes that out of the equation. It lowers your credibility with potential buyers or sellers, so that's not good. And then if you're apologizing when people come in, people are going to say, well, what are they going to do for me on the other end? Are they going to be apologizing? So it just has a lot of negative ramifications, and yet so often I see agents just put out there, I need an open house for this weekend, and you might be inviting all this. So when I say choose your stage wisely, you really need to put some intention into that. So how do you get a house to hold open if you don't have a listing of your own?
Look up the Regency.
Pardon?
Look up people like Marissa and Brent who have like 20 listings.
Well, and you know what, there is some truism to that. If in fact an agent that you've worked with before does a really good job staging their homes and marketing them well and such, you're probably good to work with an agent like that again, because they're gonna likely do that with all their listings. There's a chair over here, Doug.
Can I add something there?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So, we realize that there's better open houses than others,
Mm-hmm.
but when we get a good one, we're gonna call the people that are willing to sit at some of these older ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I just had a new one last week, and I called someone who is willing to sit at the other ones. I mean, so you do wanna, I don't know, it's a fine
You have to kind of
balance.
earn your place a little bit.
Well, but you're always gonna take your best if you're gonna hold it open, because you guys hold it open too, right?
We do,
Yeah.
but we also, sometimes, like, we've had too many to hold open recently,
Right. Mhm.
so.
And they don't do Sundays, so there's always, you usually do Saturdays, so
So there you
you've got
go.
a
So
Sunday.
yeah, learn your agent that you're working, that works well with you, and lean in those directions for sure.
But Angie, I'd also say this, like, let's say for instance, we have a lot of top agents that sell a lot of homes and have a lot of listings, and Brent and Marisa, certainly, they do a ton. Treat them like a client. Treat them like you're really important. Get there on time, give great feedback,
I
conduct a
was
great
going to
open
be talking
house.
about all that.
Okay, yeah.
Thank
So,
you. But no, that's true. You are creating your reputation not only with how you present yourself at the open house for potential clients, but you also are creating your reputation with how you work with other agents and whether they want to work with you. Because I'm sure you guys have had people that you don't want to work with because they blew it. So we're going to talk about ways then to also be there for the other agent.
Sometimes I've had people come in and try to put me off my footing with negative things to say. Oh, this house, and I'll say, that's called negotiation. I can negotiate with that point for you on your behalf.
Ooh, I like that. That's
And
good.
try to turn it around so it's
That's
gonna be
good.
a good thing.
That's good. That's good. And it shows how you're working for them as a
Yeah.
client, because that's what you're trying to do in that moment is get them as a client. That's
Don't
good.
let them throw you off balance.
I like that. That's good. I haven't heard that before.
Mhm.
Is that a Boism? Or is that a youism?
No, it's a meism. This
I
time.
love it. It's a Deniseism. Good, good.
Thank you.
Many. So one of the things I would say is paying attention to the negative, prominent negatives you want to avoid, like, hard to reach streets, looking for a more desirable area that's easy to flag in, making sure that it's priced well and shows nicely. And again, the homes often run with the agent as far as reputation that way. But one of the good things to do, in choosing your stage wisely, is get out there and preview. Agents don't preview anymore, and yet we used to go out and preview every single week as a company and as a team. So we learned inventory that way, and then we'd preview for our clients. But now people pretty much send out stuff, what do you want to see, and then they go show it to the client, and they haven't even seen it yet. But I'd say previewing for open house is going to help you learn inventory better, and it's also going to help you choose your stage wisely in order to really have a good open house. Now, the other thing to recognize when you do take an open house is make sure it doesn't have any prominent negative, that like a pet, if there is a pet, not that you can't hold an open house with a pet, but make sure that you coordinate with the listing agent that how that pet will be taken care of during the open house. That's the main thing there. I just want to make that comment. Okay, so once you've chosen your stage, and hopefully you've done it earlier in the week, now you want to make sure that it's properly promoted. So one of the things, when you're not the listing agent, if you are the listing agent, be sure to advertise it in the MLS. If you're not the listing agent, you need to have the listing agent present or advertise it as an open house in the multiple listing service. And the most important thing there is it gets pushed out to so many different areas when it is promoted there. So you need to make sure that gets done. And because they're not the one holding it open, they may not think of that. So that's really important. Now, another way to promote to the neighborhood is to go out and door knock. And what is the value of door knocking the neighborhood?
Oh,
Go for it.
thank you. I did that, and I made friends with this one couple. We just hit it off for some reason. It just clicked. And I said, come on and see me on Saturday. They go, we will. He came, the man and wife came together, and about that time, someone was very interested in the place and said, well, what about the plumbing? The guy was a plumber.
Oh
and
my
they said,
gosh.
let's go look at the pipes together. Let's go look under the kitchen sink.
Holy
And he
moly.
was showing them around, and they were looking at the roof, and he was explaining things. So I just let him have the floor, and it was like amazing.
That's awesome.
So I brought them a thank you note. Thank you.
That was a neighbor showing people coming by?
Yeah, and they stayed to answer questions.
Love it. That's awesome.
I was like, yeah.
So, well, I hope they go on your social sphere and
Yeah.
pop my list. That's awesome. They already are your advocate. That's awesome. So, number one, it can increase activity to your open house by inviting the neighbors. That's one of the things. What else might it do?
You can list, or you can meet future people that might want to list.
Exactly. Just by the fact that you go to the house, they may invite you in even in that moment. I've heard of those scenarios. Or you're building, little nuggets where they will eventually seek you out. They might come to the open house and see how you do it then. But ultimately, they're looking to list. So that might help you get listings. Also, quite often, people know somebody that's thinking about moving into the neighborhood. Like, they like the neighborhood. And so when they know you're going to be holding it open this weekend, they may tell their friends, hey, let's go over and look at this open house this weekend. So it's definitely got some really huge potential. I know one of the things I always like to do whenever we go to conventions or whatever, the NAR, CAR, is go to top agent panels. I love doing that. And almost always a top agent panel will have somebody on there that's really just very proficient at open houses, and they all go out and door knock the neighborhood. I remember Michaela, new to the business, 23 years old, she didn't have any way to really bring business. Her social sphere did not own homes. They rented or lived with parents still. So she started holding open houses, but she was excellent about doing notepads, inviting people to the
Still
open
does it.
house. Yeah, she still does. That is true. Well, it worked so well for her, that's why. So she would write the notes, inviting people, go out and door knock the neighborhood, and leave the notepad if they weren't there, along with a flyer, or just the notepad. I don't know if she does flyers anymore, but just the notepad giving the details. And she definitely got her very first listing off of an open house, but it actually wasn't just in the pre-part. The pre-part brought this potential guy to the home, but what actually got it for her was the follow-up, which we're going to talk about that too, because the seizing the day again has to do not only with the pre-work you do, but the post-work you do. It's in the follow-up too. So we'll be moving through that as we get going. Now, what are some other ways that you can promote the open house besides just inviting the neighbors?
Social media.
Social media, absolutely. So you want to make sure that you put it on your social media. If it happens to be your own listing, be sure that they push it out there to their social media. If you're not in that situation, then also you could text the information out to any of your social sphere and invite them that way, more personal than just social media. And then also if you've got current prospects, really good way to connect with them and say, hey, come by and see me at the open house. If in fact you're doing something that might be like a drawing of some sort, you can even entice them with that. Hey, I'm giving out a $50 gift card. Come on by. Maybe you'll be the winner. But again, just bonding you to those current prospects and your social sphere as well. Because if in fact you text to your social sphere, they're more likely to get it than just see it on your social media. but also it puts you top of mind. They may or may not be thinking about doing something, but I love staying top of mind with my sphere because they're then become your ambassadors to promote you to people they might know that are thinking of buying or selling. So just that little text, whether or not they even come, is another good touch to keep top of mind. What else can you do to promote your open house? This might give you a sign. Signage, yes. Now, one of the things, and I'll see this with agents that might all of a sudden decide to do an open house in an area they haven't held before, certain areas have very strict sign rules, like Coto de Casa. You've got to use their brown and beige signs, I think they are. And so find out in advance what the signage rules are if you're going into an area you're not familiar with. But also put up as many signs as are allowable. I remember years ago an agent that did really well off of open houses. She goes, my goal is, and she did it in her farm as well, but my goal is that the neighbors can't go out and buy a loaf of bread without seeing my sign. They have to, she's got it flagged in from so many different directions, which brings up the next point. Flag in from multiple directions. Like our old farm was the Madrid del Lagos, which was off of Vista del Lago. So you could come in off of Marguerite, which was the more prime way to come in, but also Los Alisos brings people in. And so you want to flag in from both directions so you get the majority, the most bang for your buck, if you will. Now, so earlier in the week, especially if it's an area I don't know, I would go out and strategically map out, either at least in my head, but maybe even on a piece of paper, where I'm going to put my signs. So I bring enough signs. If you don't have enough signs, either buy more or borrow them so that you can really have that impact. But go out and strategically figure it out. I also would look to see whose yard am I going to be putting it in that may not be all that keen. Because you know what happens? The people who happen to be on that one turn that there's no good corner except their front lawn, they get hit up all the time with agents putting their signs in the yard. And sometimes they get a little frustrated or irritated. So why don't we turn that negative into a positive? Go by earlier in the week and say, hey, I'm going to be holding an open house this weekend. Would you mind if could I please put my sign in your yard? And as a thank you, I'd like to give you a $10 Starbucks card or something. Now all of a sudden you stand out to them above and beyond any other realtors, like nobody ever asked. You guys actually asked, yes, please go ahead. Now you could get the negative no, in which case you want to have one of those tent signs that you can put on the sidewalk. That's not in their yard, but it is a way to turn a negative into a positive. And I remember there was one yard like that in our particular farm that always got the open house signs. And when I did ask the one time I was holding a house up the street, the homeowner was blown away and just said, thank you so much. In that instance, I didn't actually bring by I think it might be better to ask in advance and do the Starbucks card, or a little whatever kind of gift card. I actually brought by cookies afterwards and thanked them afterwards for letting me do it, because I cooked cookies at the open house. So however you want to do it, but the idea being that turn that negative into a positive, but have your signage as big as you can, big and bold with signage. So the third thing, so first of all, you've chosen your stage, you've properly promoted it. That's easy for me to say. And now, not all realtors are created equal. Knowledge is your superpower. But how are you going to be the knowledge that is a superpower? So what kind of information do you want to collect before an open house so that you can have the knowledge and be the expert?
School districts,
School district, very good.
tax rates.
Tax rates,
How many floor plans in the track?
excellent.
Other
Know
listings,
the neighborhood.
other listings, other sales.
Other listings, other sales. You want to run all the comps for the neighborhood, know the floor plans in the neighborhood, go out and preview so you intimately know the homes that are on the market, and you're familiar at least with what's currently in escrow. You won't necessarily be able to see those homes, but you can see where they're located, their exterior condition, whether or not they might have had a view, were they on a cul-de-sac, were they on the main thoroughfare. I mean, you can get some good knowledge that way. And then, yeah, all the primary information about the home, the taxes, the schools are always the things people are going to ask about. Association fees. What are the amenities that includes? Because that can vary quite dramatically from neighborhood to neighborhood. what is included.
And we have sheets on those too, for
Yes.
almost all the areas that you can print out and have ready.
Yes, we have them for the cities. So yeah, do it in the macro, the city way, but also, and those are nice things to bring as a printout, which I'm gonna talk very next about how you can show your knowledge when they walk in. But also the micro, like whether or not there's, like the Majorcas, it's a gated community, it's guard gated 24 hours, it's got 2 pools, 2 jacuzzis, it's got its own private beach. I mean, the things like that you wanna know and be able to talk intelligently about. Now, let's say you don't live in Mission Viejo, but you're holding a Mission Viejo home open. I would highly encourage you, before your open house, go in and tour the lake facility. And they may let you in with your realtor card, may not. If not, then ask somebody to meet you over there and do a little tour of it. We've done community day tours over the past year, so most people that have been on the team for a while have seen all these facilities and are familiar with them, but that's the very reason why, is so you can talk intelligently about different communities that way. But if not, I know like Mission Viejo, I'd always be happy to meet you over there and get you in and show you around for a few minutes. But yeah, to be able to really go in and touch and kind of get the feel for those amenities, you'll be able to talk more intelligently and knowledgeably and passionately for a potential client. Now, some of the ways you could show more information too at the open house. How many people here do a geofarm?
Brett does.
Okay, so there are a few of you. One of the things we used to do, and I don't know if you've seen a picture of it, I didn't bring one today, sorry, I could probably dig it out. But we took actually the plat maps of our neighborhood and taped them together and then colored them all in and everything. Made it very pretty.
We had it on Facebook, on our group Facebook 2 weeks ago.
Okay, good, I didn't see that. So the farm map that we put together, but that's almost like a new home sales, like when people come in, but when they come in, if they go to it and you can have that standing up there, and when they come to it and they start looking, you can see like they might be looking for their own home or looking for big lots in the neighborhood or whatever, but it creates a conversation piece where you can start some conversation there that might lead. And if they do spend some time looking at it, there's probably a reason too. Another thing you can do is, if it's not your area, do a Google Map aerial of the neighborhood. And that way you can show, like, using our neighborhood again, the Madrid del Lagos that we farmed, it was close to the lake, but we could do an aerial view of a Google Map and show how close it is to the lake and show what parks are in the area and that type of thing. So again, it has them slow down a little bit, and you can talk more intelligently about the community and what all it, like, that would be a good picture right there. That would be the type of thing. Yeah, Teresa.
I know when Steve puts a listing or when I put a listing, we want to share all the information you're talking about with the buyer. So if you take the time to read the listing and to look at the pictures, you won't even have to go investigate.
Nice.
It's all right there. And a lot of times people will ask me questions and I think, gosh, you did not read that. And it takes us a long time to write that up.
That's
So-
a really,
Yeah, it does.
really good point. Do you take the time on a home you might be holding open to read through the entire listing, or do you just look at the quick snapshot? Because yeah, there's a lot, and look at all the pictures. That's a really good point. The other thing you could do, you could actually have your computer there and use it almost like a little slideshow of flashing through pictures and what have you. So that's another thing, yeah.
Our title company has maps of every city,
Mhm.
so when I'm going to a location, I'll have RSM,
Nice.
and then I can point out where the elementary school is, where the high school is, where the pools are, and stuff like that.
Amy, plus we have a drawer right behind you with
Yeah.
every city in, yeah.
Back down.
Yeah.
That was there,
And you can take those and use those for the day and just have them with you.
Yeah, so, yeah, be sure, yeah.
Just show them one.
So this.
Wow.
But just be sure you don't keep it. You gotta bring it back. Or you could take it over to Kinko's or Staples or whatever.
Yeah, if
and
you want
make your
those,
own.
I can show you the website. You can go and print them, and then you can obviously have them.
We have it on Teams too.
Yeah, it's on Teams too. So
Angie, I was gonna add, I remember when I first started, I was always nervous when I went into people's open houses because I was holding them for all you guys, but I'd always walk through and just like know where the AC unit is, know where the water heater is, because these are like little questions that people are gonna ask. And if you don't know, you kind of look, kind of seem silly that you don't know. where all those things are in the house. So.
That's good.
So, yeah, one of the things, and that's, kind of piggybacking on what May said, is that obviously you want to look for buyers that might buy something else, and you want to look for listings in the neighborhood, and you want to sell that home too. If you don't know a lot about that home, you won't get another listing in there, and you're not going to sell that home.
Yeah.
So all you're really doing is sitting that home open for other buyers that may want to buy in other neighborhoods. So you're taking away 2/3 of your potential buyers because you can't connect with them because you're not knowledgeable. Now, again, you need to slowly but surely let them know if they have questions on that home that you can give them details on them.
Yeah, there's nothing more embarrassing. I mean, when people have more knowledge about properties in the neighborhood than you do, and you get caught. I mean, at that point, you've lost the game. Not that it's a game, but you've lost the credibility, if you will, and you don't show that you have knowledge. So yeah, it's so important, and it's especially important always, but I think for a newer agent, because you already don't have the confidence, you kind of have to fake it until you can make it type thing. But if you can come with knowledge as your superpower and have so much knowledge that you don't get caught in those scenarios, it'll help build your confidence and come off more confident to a potential client.
So if they ask you a tax rate and you don't know the tax rate of that home or what their tax structure is, whether it has metal roofs or not, you're probably eliminated from getting them as a client.
Yep.
But it's pretty easy to take 15 minutes to really know that property inside and out and know that neighborhood, because when you're selling a home, you're just not selling a home, you're selling a lifestyle. And the lifestyle is what's, if you're selling Rancho Mission Viejo, that's a lifestyle. Mission Viejo is a lifestyle. Lake Forest, everything down here is a lifestyle.
Amen. Yeah. No, so true. And you mentioned a good thing, Ed, is that, we're trying to, the four things, we're trying to sell that home if possible. We're trying to get potential buyers. Okay, so a potential buyer might come in and that home just doesn't click for them. We don't need to start trying to convince them. If it's not the right property, it's not the right property. But you get a little bit of information from them, what they might be looking for. If you've been out previewing, switch properties that you can talk intelligently about. Now, number one, you never, ever, 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 ever leave an open house to go show another property, unless you're holding it with somebody else and you've prearranged that. But you can talk that, wow, I know this property that might be more along the lines of what you're looking for. I'd love to show it to you. You could even plan to show it after that open house, or set up the appointment to do it the next day, or meet at your office before you would go out. A lot of ways. We're going to talk a little bit about how to work with a potential client in a moment, but moving through our little 6 things here.
I just want to say something. For the agents that, and I know that I'm not going to sort everyone out here, but some do amazing open houses here. If you put twice as much work in an open house, you'll have a 10 times more chance to be successful. So this idea that we're going to put the signs up, I'll go there and have people come in, it's not about that. You've got to do the homework, picking the right open house, and then knowing about that house.
Yep.
You have to know all about it.
And I think being able to talk intelligently about other properties, other communities, and I'm going to keep hitting on this, but I really think, especially the brand new agents, you need to get out there and be previewing properties. And it really is okay to go look at homes even though you don't have a buyer for that property. It's okay to get out there and preview. But yeah, I'm looking around the same price range. Used to be, in the olden days, of horse and buggy when we were selling real estate. But the properties, you didn't have the internet and all that. So people came off of signage, period. Or maybe a newspaper ad, but mostly signage. And so they didn't know the price of the home when they were driving in there. And quite often, I mean, as we all do, they would gravitate into a price range higher than what they could really afford. So you always wanted to have switch properties for lower price properties that might fit what they would really be needing, or what would meet their needs. But nowadays, people know exactly what they're going to look at. I mean, they've got 6 open houses charted out in their price range, in the criteria that they're looking for, and they're going to drive around on a Saturday or Sunday and look at those. So I'd have other switch properties that are similar, but similar price range at least, and maybe bedroom count to that property that you could talk intelligently about. Were you going to say something?
Along the lines of that, whenever somebody goes to see another one, they'll come and tell you, I just came from the other open house. And if you don't know anything about it, you're like, how was it? It just doesn't, you should say, oh yeah, whatever, I want to see it, and
Good
what did
point.
you think? This is what I thought, what do you think?
That's true, and you could probably, I haven't done this, but is there a way to research what else is on open? I would imagine you could get on and check criteria that you're holding up and see what's around, yeah. So you're shaking your head, yes, that would be another really good thing to prep. I didn't have that in here, but it's good.
I take a look and see what all is being held open in that track.
Perfect,
And I want to be the first one there and the last one gone. So I
Yeah.
see what the time frames everybody else has,
yep,
and then I work around it.
So Angie, I can add to that. I don't know how to find open houses on MLS in the whole entire maps, but if you use Zillow, there's a filter for it that brings it up. So I actually have Zillow as a backup app.
we don't like Zillow, boo, hiss,
I
no,
know.
just kidding. I'm teasing, so, no, that's great. We can use them, we just don't like them. Just kidding, okay.
That's the one thing you should always know when you go to the open house. You have to know there's estimate. If you don't, I mean, it takes 2 minutes to find there's estimate. That doesn't mean that's the value, but at least you know what Zillow says, because that's what buyers are going to know.
Well, it's especially if you want a listing appointment, you want to know what this
And
estimate.
Well, no, even for an open house,
Yeah.
you should know. It's
Yeah.
it's so easy to find it.
You can do all that on ChatGPT now.
Nice.
And before I go to listing, I always want to know Zillow, Redfin, all that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't think to use chat for that. That's awesome. Very cool. Okay, one of the big questions that people ask all the time, what's the market like right now? So you want to have a little elevator speech, tell them what the market's like right now. And I know Ed's excellent about usually talking about that at every team meeting. And so you could even take, speaking points from whatever the team talks about. But you definitely want to be able to just on the fly be able to answer that question. That's really something you should have every day. Whether you're going to a bridal shower or dinner with a friend, people always ask that. It's one of the cool things. Like our business people are always curious about housing. But you want to have that elevator speech about the market. Does everybody here feel like they could do it right now?
Every scared to say yes.
No one give her
Okay.
Who was it that said no matter what you say, oh, the market's incredible?
Oh, that was Zig Ziglar.
Tommy Hopkins.
Well, I think they both did it, but yeah, incredible, but getting better. I like how he did that. That was cute.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
It's
Okay.
only inflection, right?
Yeah. So, now one of the things you also want to be able to do is to talk intelligently about the buyer and the buying and selling process, which is part of why early on in the business we always have all of you guys do a buyer presentation and a listing presentation. And I know that people kind of push back on getting that going early, but the reason being is, don't you feel like once you've done a few buyer or listing presentations, it gives you greater confidence just to talk to a potential buyer or seller? And I'm not talking about giving a presentation at an open house, not at all. I don't even want to, but I want to be able to talk a little bit intelligently about all these things as a tease to get them to come and meet with me. So you want to be able to talk intelligently about, how much down payment is necessary to buy a home nowadays. What are the financial advantages of owning versus renting if you're getting somebody coming in like that? Big one right now would be, well, we're going to talk about that in a minute, but because it's one of the objections you gave, but why should I buy now? I want to wait until rates come down. That you want to be able to talk about that. And did you know there's an app for that? No. Well, actually, there's online sites you can go to that actually give you charts and stuff as to what, and you can plug in real numbers to kind of have it figure it. The benefits of downsizing a home for an empty nester. A lot of people don't understand about the tax benefits there. They're stuck back, especially older people, because the tax laws used to be different. They're stuck in the old tax laws. They don't realize how things have changed so dramatically. How much capital gains is paid when there's profit on a home, and how is it figured? Again, with the appreciating values we've had in our marketplace in the last years, so many people are sitting on above and beyond what they can, the capital gains limits that they would be paying a lot more in taxes now. I'm over 55, can I transfer my tax base? What if I buy more expensive? Again, it used to be equal to or less than. Now they can buy up and still, do you know how that's figured? Now, again, I don't expect you at an open house to be sharing those specific numbers with them, but making them aware of these things and saying, I'd love to invite you into my office so I can sit down and have a consultation with you to share, or I could go to your house. I mean, it doesn't have to be the office, but to share this information with you so you can make an informed decision on what you might be thinking about doing in the future. But you need to be able to kind of talk intelligently about these things. People always want to know how much are the closing costs for a buyer or a seller. How are those figured? How would you talk about that at an open house? So you need to have answers, not necessarily their specific answers, but you need to have the right answers so you can have I keep saying a tease, but kind of inviting them in for a consultation so that you can really share good information with them that is going to help them make a decision whether they want to move forward or not. Anything anyone wants to add there?
Interest rates too. kind of
Yes.
thing.
Oh, yeah. Know what the interest rate is right now. What is it?
Like 7.
Is it the right tick
7 to a
under?
tick under,
Yeah.
but right at 7.
So I guessed right. That's what I was thinking. It was a tick under. 7's good. You never get a second chance at a first impression. I love this. Favorite movie of all time. I've watched this movie more than any other movie. And I hated it the first time I saw it. It's really funny. About the third time, you start to kind of get it. And then about the 17th time, it's like, no, really, you'll like it. You gotta watch it again.
That's me and Princess Bride. I can watch that movie
Yeah,
every
and I
time.
still haven't watched Princess Bride all the way through. I've
You
got to
haven't?
do it. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
I know bits and pieces of it. Maybe.
Stop rapping in the
Sweet
beginning.
Okay, back on track. You never get a second chance at a first impression, or a lasting impression, I might add. So we need to think of it this way. When you're at an open house, you're in essence interviewing for a job. And so when you go to a job interview, how are you going to present yourself and make that good first impression? First impressions, they say, are literally gleaned within seconds of meeting. So there's a lot that's communicated in that. I know Ed's going to be talking about body language in the fall. There are literally things that will come across that you present, but also that you can glean from other people in just those few seconds, and then certainly in longer conversation. So that first impression that you want to make in just seconds is, do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they respect you enough to want to work with you? That's what you ultimately want to have happen. So how can you make a good first impression like in seconds? What would you do?
Smile.
Smile, I love it.
Welcome.
That was actually on my list. Yes, a warm and friendly welcome with a smile. That's very important. And also I'd say even a friendly confidence, which again, when you're new, you feel so insecure. Hello. Thank you for coming to my open house. You can't do that. You gotta just get out there and act like
Oh
you.
my god, you came to my open house.
Yeah, I know, really.
Are you
Wait,
lost?
I gotta wake up. Actually, I have looked at open houses before where the agent never did wake up.
Oh my gosh. Can you imagine?
And the
Oh my
TV
God.
was on. It's like, seriously, we walked in and out, and he never knew we were
Oh,
there.
look
And he had a cigar in his
I
mouth
think you
that
said
didn't
wake
burn
up.
out.
No, he never woke up. He was
Not
asleep
true
the whole
story.
time.
We were showing property.
Did you sneak a picture?
No.
Oh man.
I don't think those days we had your phone wasn't a camera. Our phone was,
Anyway, he lost the job interview. Just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, another way is to dress professionally. I dressed for you guys today in my nice little suit to show an example. Kasha's always excellent about the way she dresses, very professionally for open houses, as are many of you. But think about that, and I think especially when you're newer in the business, and again, you've got a little insecurity in coming off, as a strong, confident professional. How you present yourself in that warm hello and friendly smile, look them in the eyes, how you're dressed, all those things help build credibility in just those seconds before you then can go on and show them your knowledge and such. So it's really important that you think about that and really do that pep talk in your head to get yourself ready for that. And I'll tell you, I remember years ago when, before Zoom, And a friend was telling me that she was working from home, which was okay with her employer at that time, but she had to do a phone conversation with her boss once a week. And one day she was on the phone giving her update and all, and the boss said, I won't give her name, Mary, Mary, are you still in your pajamas? And she's like, yeah. She goes, I could tell. I could hear it in your voice. I want you to go get dressed and come back and we'll do this call in an hour. Because when you're in your pajamas, it comes through in how you talk. And so
Wow.
when we dress professionally, I'm telling
I've
you,
been looking around for a camera. What's going on here?
but when we dress professionally, we act differently. I remember our old broker, he never sold the whole time I knew him, but when he was younger in the business, he had sold. And he always told the story of how he would get, when he had a listing appointment he was going on, and he'd get his nice suit on and his dress shoes, and he went tap dancing out into the garage. I've got my selling shoes on today, and stepped in the garage and stepped right in a little present from his dog.
Oh gosh.
So then he had to tap dance back in and change his shoes. No.
Sometimes at an open house, like I did an open house for Amy a while ago, and I had one person come. And that's okay, because that one person has turned into a client, and we're actually looking for a place.
Yay!
It's taking a really long time though. But sometimes it can get so slow and so quiet that I make for myself, it helps me, if every hour I run stairs or do some kind of exercise around just to get my blood
Jump in
pumping.
and out of the tub.
Yeah. Just to get your blood pumping again, because if you're sitting there for hours and someone comes in, I just feel sluggish.
Yes, that's a really good point. That is true.
It keeps me sharp. Just to go, time to run stairs and run a couple. And
I
then
love that. No, I really do love that, because it's true. Because when you get, you could be doing something very productive on your computer and what have you while you're waiting for someone to come through, but you're right, you get sluggish. And so and you want to stay on your sharp A game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and also I'd say, because there's so many things I could go into, like where to park your car, across the street, not in front of the house, so people have nice curb appeal when they drive up. Where you sit in the house, try to sit where you can see if people are coming up.
Yeah.
Don't go back in the,
Definitely.
so you'd have a minute to wake up if you, if you got too intense or sluggish. But yeah, there's so many little things like that I'm not going to go into today, that I just did. But no, I like that. That's really good. Now, not only do you want to choose your stage, but you also want to set your stage. And so setting the stage, do you have to go for your appointment?
In a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I don't want you to be late for that. That's important. He's got an appointment. But you want to arrive early to your open house. There's nothing worse and loses credibility when you show up late. First of all, there's Ring doorbells, there's cameras inside houses, and trust me, the client, the homeowner, is watching those things intently. So even if they're not there, they know whether or not you got there on time. And they will report back to the listing agent. So again, how you can get brownie points or deductions right there. But show up early, go to the house first, set your stage, then go out and put the signs up. Because otherwise, what often happens, you're putting your signs up and somebody's following you in because they want to see that house. If you haven't set your stage, all of a sudden you're running through while they're kind of looking at the house, and you're frantically turning on lights and opening up blinds. You want to have all that done ahead of time so that you can have a confidence and a professionalism when they walk into the home. Yes.
How do you guys feel about putting signs out maybe the night before or something like that?
I think it's terrible, but I know
I was
people
gonna
do
say,
it.
yeah.
I mean, so I know you put them all the way out except for the street, so that the next morning all I have to. They do that a lot. They really do that a lot in Rancho Mission Viejo. To me, that gives an agent a bad name. When I know signs are out late Saturday night when I come in, that agent would be on my bad list.
Really?
Because they didn't take the signs
With the
down.
local people? Or?
Yeah, you're littering the neighborhood with stuff. You didn't take your signs down after a Saturday open house. You're just gonna leave them there until Sunday. I probably wouldn't want to list with that agent.
And is it after or is it before the open house?
Either one. If it's a time that you know is nowhere near. I mean, Rancho Mission Viejo, they're famous for that, right? What do you think about the agents that have them up on Saturday night at 8 o'clock? There's no open house.
I wouldn't want it, because aesthetically for my community, I don't want to be driving,
So I look-
looking at signages.
So I look at that name, they're off my list.
Yeah.
honestly. I know it's easy to
I'm
do.
gonna go tell them, 'cause I know all of them.
Yeah, you know. Who's your favorite?
Cause then, like, it's
Oh,
getting to be
Roy,
summer
he's
and
my
I'm out
friend,
sweating
so-
Yeah.
in
Oh, you should.
the suit or whatever I'm
You're
wearing.
supposed to say your favorite.
Wait till he hears about me. I can see doing,
Adam Friday. We'll bring him over too. Huh?
You may defriend me.
what I,
Might block you, huh?
I agree with Ed. It doesn't bode well with me when I see that, when I see people doing that. But that being said, I don't know if all clients would look at it that way. They might look at it like, oh, person's name, they do a lot of business. I always see their signs. So maybe it plays well. I don't know. But I could see going early in the morning because of the heat, putting them up except for the final one, going back, showering, getting ready, go set the house up, and then put the last few signs in. I could
That's
see
not
doing
bad.
that.
I do.
Yeah, because it is hard to put them up and then show up and be all fresh. Yeah, because, yeah.
For the first
So-
hour, you're like
Yeah.
still sweating.
So I get that. Yeah, so there's, I think, a way to do that, but that isn't offensive, but also you aren't sweating. So what are the next thing, setting your stage, what are some things you do at the house to make potential clients feel more welcome? Like, how might you do that? And I'll even throw out there a hint. I think appeal to their senses, all 5 senses. So what would they,
Air conditioning for some.
air conditioning for sure, yeah.
Or heat. So whatever,
Yes, that's true.
in a hot day, you want it cool. In a cold day, you want it warm.
True,
Yeah?
yeah.
Yeah.
They come in?
I play music. I
I'm
always
always
have music on.
hot, so.
Music is-
I bring
I
my
have to-
speaker and play like a bossa nova, something just calming.
Absolutely. You
I
know,
heard
you
once
want to
that
set that.
I-
Model
I-
homes have that.
Well, I heard once too that when people walk through homes and they kind of want to talk a little bit, they almost feel like you're listening if it's super silent. So if
Good
there's
point.
music, they feel more comfortable to have a little bit of discussion. So I always do music.
And also recognize, I mentioned it a second ago, but there are cameras in most homes,
Yeah.
inside and out.
Yeah.
And so be aware when you're talking that the homeowner is going to hear whatever you say. So so be careful about that. We had a home we had listed out in the desert, and the agent knew that we had cameras. We told her, and she literally sat on our couch right in front of the camera. She obviously forgot, and talked to some people about writing an offer. We heard their whole strategy before she presented.
Wow.
It was like, well, she knew. How silly of her. But yeah, it helped us, I think, negotiate a better
I was
situation.
at open house last week and the owner was actually next door. And the houses are almost attached, so the yards are, because her mom lived right next door.
Mhm.
And a client came in, and then his agent came in later, and she said, "Oh, my client was here earlier. I want to take a look around." And she started giving like her, and then she walked in the backyard, and I said, "The family's next door, by the way," because she was talking so loud, and she was sort of, "Well, I would do this if I buy the house." And if my client, and I was going, "They're right next door."
Yeah.
Just giving her a heads up because I'm like, she's gonna say something she's gonna regret, and she's gonna be writing an offer possibly to these people, and
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm
So
big
true.
on refreshments,
Mhm.
water.
Excellent.
yeah, I do some refreshments too.
Oh, go ahead, Lynn.
Oh, I started baking cookies.
You saw that. That's so cool.
Yeah, and people say, do they recognize it right away? They said it smells like cookies, and
Yes.
he says, I just made some, and then that's like a great conversation starter. Just give them one, and they get all smiley when they start.
Tell them about your little oven thing. How much it
Oh
costs.
yeah, so on Amazon I found a great deal. It's just about $20, and then I buy the silicone liner just to make it easier to clean up. So all costs maybe like $30 total, but $20 for the mini oven.
Oh, you actually bring it with you?
I bring it with me because I don't want to get into a situation
Yeah,
where they said,
you break
"Oh, your
theirs.
cookie spilled, and then you made a mess in my
Oh,
oven,"
that's
and
one
that
of the
looks
reasons I
really
wouldn't
bad
bake in their oven.
to the owner. So I don't want to get into that situation.
Yeah.
Excellent. And that appeals to the refreshment, the taste, but also the smell. So it hits too. Yes.
This is kind of an easy one, but people get it wrong. But when someone comes to the door, if no one's been there, stand up and greet them.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
For sure.
and shake
I
hands.
have been to so many open houses where the agent's just like,
Oh.
Rock
Yeah.
on, dude.
Agents are working on their
they're
computer.
working
Yeah.
on their computer.
You
just
get their
greet
name
them
and call them by
yeah.
name.
You guys, it's a job interview. It's
Yeah.
a job
And I
interview.
love the hostess. Come take a look around.
Yeah.
What's your name?
Yeah, no, it's like, yeah, would you just sit there and the job interview and just go, hey, look on through, let me know what you think. No. So, so those are good. And if you don't want to do the cookies, got a little hint here, or trick here for you, but you got to remember to take it with you. But if you get some foil and make like a little cup out of it, and then put a couple drops of vanilla in it, and put the oven on real low. It'll have that vanilla smell through the house. You could probably get a vanilla candle too, but Ruthie would not like that. She's not here, I'm ripping on her, sorry. But yeah, remember to take it with you if you do something like that. Now, again, you want to be able to show your knowledge like we talked earlier. So this is a good place then as people come in, have maybe a welcome sign, have the farm map or the Google map or the maps here or something like that. One of the things that Bo, Denise's son, I'm going to give some Bo-isms here. He's like the master at open houses. How many homes did he sell his first year?
24 in his first year.
24 in his first year off of open house.
Sales.
There you go. 24 sales off of open house. So it can be done. Absolutely. And so at any rate, he did things bigger and better. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But one of the things he did is he got one of those big easels and he got the big, boards, what do you call it?
Whiteboards.
Yeah, and then he put on there, you could do like the map area, the map like we talked about, pin that up there. But he'd have different properties up there that would be switch properties. He'd have maybe tax information, things that would be about the property, about the area, about, other things, all the things that we talked about, the knowledge that you want to have and share. But he would have the big board there. So you walk into the open house and there's like this big easel there and it's kind of like, oh. And people automatically would walk over and kind of gravitate that. They might walk through the house first. Some people would do that. Some people would go to the board first. But everybody would always come back and look at that board. So he could be there and start answering questions and get into conversation. It's a really good conversation starter and a way to show your knowledge and also kind of get their story.
Amy does that. You do a really good boarding. When you walk in Amy's open house, it's always really beautifully done. And she's got her board with the room from. And I've been in her open house, and people go straight to the board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
Marissa
need to take a
did.
picture of that and bring it and show it to everyone. That'd be great. Because
Marissa
I didn't know
had
you
an
did that.
Amazing presentation that she had up. That one house I did was amazing.
Again, you guys share this at the next office meeting or on our Facebook page. Because, people need to see that. Okay, we need to wish Mace well.
Bye, Mace.
Bye,
Go get 'em.
Get him. You got
We'll make you
this.
some money.
You got it.
See ya.
Go get them, Mace.
Go get them.
You got this.
Need to feed the grandkids.
So when you do have a board like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it slows people down, it engages them more with you, it shows your knowledge, and you look more professional too. So again, it gives you that edge, even as a brand new agent, it gives you that edge of looking very, professional and as though you've been there a long time, because you prepared well. And I think people are more inclined then, once you start to have all that going for you, they're more inclined to want to set an appointment with you. So how can you get people's information for follow-up? We're going to talk more about the conversation, but do you guys use sign-in books? Do you use apps? Do you do drawings? What are your most effective ways to get people's information?
I use the form, the call form, because we're supposed to now.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I get those on.
Okay.
And most people are real receptive.
The buyer broker agreement, you mean, or is it
No,
another form?
it's,
Okay, I'm not up to date.
Open house sign-in sheet.
Oh, okay, cool.
I went
So-
back to my own sign-in sheets because every time I would have the car sign-in sheets, people would always say, how do you fill this out? Because it's not designed very well. It's really narrow and it asks for like 3 things, your name, your agent, and your email. And so they're like, so I just went back to something just nicer, clearer. I reprinted them up again for this weekend. People were just really receptive to signing in. It was easy. And then I figured, hopefully I don't get arrested by the Department of Real Estate. Or I'll just transfer it over if I have to. Because they're not really signing. It's not a signature thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I have to transfer to that form for somebody's use, I can't. I keep them both together afterwards. I keep a blank one. But I went back to something nice, easier to read, prettier, has big hello at the top. And it's just easier.
More friendly.
Yeah, it's more friendly.
I remember one guy years ago that was very good, Rick Unger, was really good at open houses. And one of the things he did is when he'd be in conversation with people, he'd actually just, he always had a stack of cards in his pocket and he'd pull one out and goes, so now, when the conversation was going well and you needed to get their contact info, you go, so your name, da-da-da, and what's your phone number? And you just kind of make it very casual and conversational. That never worked for me. Everybody has to find their style, their right niche. But one of the best ways, I didn't know there was a form now, that's probably the best. But another thing that I think is very powerful and well used is drawings. I think people are more inclined to give you accurate, good information if they think they can win something. And you have to make it enticing enough that they would actually sign in and want it. But there's two things I think are really good about that, and it's in the follow-up. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but so I'll get there in a minute. But those are some ways to gather information. Does anyone do anything else different?
Kasha gave me a really great idea when we were sitting and kind of
You might have an idea.
putting our heads together last week. Because I do up a nice flyer whenever I do an house for somebody. I always do something at home the week before, I get it really ready and try and do a really nice job for the agents I'm doing it for. And so what I was talking to Kasha about, we're talking about the flyers, and she said, oh, I just have them go get the digital flyer. I said, what digital flyer? And so she was just saying, if you keep which, it's funny you don't think about these things until someone says it, where you can just send them the little one home link. I did that twice the last open house, and
And you get their
one
phone
of them
number
even had an
and check,
agent,
but I have
and
it
one
printed
was-
too, so.
I have them printed too,
Yeah.
but there was somebody leaving, and he said, I said, you know what, I can send you the digital flyer, you have it to compare as you're looking. He goes, yeah, that'd be great. And I said, and he came right over and wrote it down. Now,
That's a good
this
idea.
was someone that ended up having another agent. But the cool thing was when the flyer goes out, it's got my picture and my name right
Nice.
under the first photo of the house.
Love it.
So, I may not get his business, but at least, I got the flyer out there, and it's another way to get them to put their information down anyway. So,
So do
But
you have
yeah, that
both,
was
or
brilliant.
do you just do the digital?
both.
I feel out the client to begin with if they're very well, first off, if they're working with an agent,
Yeah.
if they are working with an agent, then I don't. Then
Okay.
obviously their agent will get that to them.
Yeah.
But if most likely they are open to working with someone and they're like wishy-washy, like, well, kind of, but my brother's not full-time. Okay, well, if your brother's not available, I'll text this to you and just let me know if you have any questions, type of a thing. And then I'll have the printed one. Not always, because sometimes I get a request to work an open house on a Friday and it's Saturday, so I'm gonna prioritize my time.
So one thing I'd say right now is don't ask somebody if they're working with a client unless you also ask them, do they have a BRBC? Because,
Don't ask them?
well, you can ask them if they're working with a client, but if they
the
are
agent.
The realtor.
with an agent, but you have to follow it up with, have you signed a BRBC with them?
Oh, I just did that this weekend.
Because if they say no, you can say then they don't think they're working with you.
Right.
Because they're required by law to have you sign that as soon as they feel like they're working with you. Why doesn't your agent think you're their client? I mean, honestly, they need to be signing that
Yeah, I like
BRBC
that.
to be a client. So
Yes.
turn that around. Just don't say, are you working with somebody, and that's it. And then the other thing is, you're an open house, you only get a chance. I mean, sometimes I'd have fun with things. If I asked me they're working with an agent, and he said, yeah, and I'd say, let me ask you this, you think this agent is the best agent in the universe? And if they said no, I'd say, then give me a chance to prove that I am. I mean, have some fun. I mean, if they walk away,
Okay, I'm gonna do that next time.
it's like throwing a Hail Mary. And the way I look at it,
If I get in trouble, then
no, the way I say this is that
You just
you're not
gotta do
gonna
best.
you're not gonna get in trouble if you say that. But I mean, you can have fun with it, and smile when you say it, and people will accept it the way you've said it.
do you think that agent is the best agent in the universe? Got it.
Yeah.
Do you think that? Do you think
And
You
you
say-
know what, I don't think Mace used those exact words, but in essence, that's how he got the listing appointment, or buyer appointment, I guess it is, that he has today, is they were gonna work with another agent, and he asked if he could have a shot at it too, and so, yeah, it worked.
And so Mace is really good at open houses. So
I know.
we had a
it's
long
fun to make-
we had a long talk in the pool in Cancun. He and I for about an hour. We were just talking about a lot of things, and one thing was open house success and how he's doing it. And I asked him. I said, "Give me an honest estimation of how many open houses you need to hold to convert to a closed escrow." He goes, "Well, I'm just going to go back to last year and this year," and he started adding up, and he says, "Every 4 open houses I've held converts to a sale, but I got to be honest. This year I'm doing better."
Yeah.
He long time ago qualified for our trip through open houses in the first couple months. So if you just do the math, our average commission is about $27,000. If you hold an open house once a weekend all year long, you'd make $351,000 off of open houses if you're good at them. Now, if you're not good at them, you could make as little as 0. So
And
the
here's-
difference between people that are good and the people that are not very good is 10 to 20 times.
100%.
So when you do all this preparation and do everything that you should, it starts converting, and you see why all this work you put in, and maybe on an open house you put in 10 hours of prep work, of before and after work in addition to the open house. All of a sudden you start to say, well, wait a minute, I'm getting paid $400 an hour, $500 an hour, it's worth it. But if you're doing very little and you get nothing, you're getting paid $0 per hour. So just do it all and do it really well, and that's the difference.
And I'll tell you, we'll talk about that. I'm jumping all over. I'm gonna keep them focused, but no, that is so true. And so, if in fact you're holding a lot of open houses and it's not tipping for you, you need to go back and figure out what you're not doing right, because there is money in open houses, big time. You can see it in Mace. Bo is another good example. I mean, the people that figure it out, it really works, and it can be a very productive way to get business. So so you kind of have to keep refining it. The other thing I would say is not only you also want to leave a lasting impression with people, or something they can take with. I love the flyer, doing the digital flyer. A couple other little things, and these are just cute. This isn't going to win the day for you, but water bottles, you can get the labels for water bottles. You're going to probably offer water anyway, but labels that are personalized. I've seen people do, this is a super simple one, but little popcorn bags, and thanks for popping by with your name on it rather than handing a business card. And then also following up with people with video text is really excellent. Personalized if you have the opportunity, but even to have a generic one that sends out, or the pre-recorded videos that Ed has really encourages you guys to do. But you got to use these things. But these are things that'll help set you apart. If you didn't get the appointment then, or even if you did, these are ways that are going to help build your credibility with people. So you can see how much it does take time and preparation before you get to the open house. And one other thing I'd say is that, and my little thing, failure to plan is failing to plan. Wait, failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah.
Said it wrong. Anyways, but one more thing that you want to do in preparation is talk to the listing agent. And the things you want to discuss with them is be sure to remind them to advertise the open house. You don't want to show up to a non-advertised open house. You might want to also...
You mean to put it in the MLS?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ask the seller's...
And their social media.
Yeah. Ask the seller's motivation. People always ask that, and so it's just good to know. Not that it really matters, but it does seem to be a big thing. If you don't know, you can ask them about the association fees if they want to give you some more as to what it covers. Thank them for letting you hold the open house. Let them know how much you appreciate it. This is where you're going to build in a realtor's eyes so that you get future open houses that are good. And tell them you'll report back to them, and then do it. You've got to report back. And remember, with clients, everything's in dog years. And so if you held the open house and you don't report on it to the agent until the next day, it's been like 7 days to them. They want to know the day of, like what happened. And remember that for your own clients too. But here's the biggest, most important one. Call the agent the day before and ask them, has there been any activity on the house? Because lo and behold, they're in the middle of negotiating an offer, and it sells before the next day, and you show up ready to do the open house, and then people go, oh, no, we signed documents last night, it's sold. We're not holding an open house today. The agent gets so wrapped up in what they're doing with the client, they forget that you're even holding it open. So be sure you call the day before, or you could be spinning your wheels in the wrong direction there. So I should have told you this ahead of time, but I am going to hand out, I'll email everybody my notes from this, along with a checklist, an open house checklist, and along with an old seminar I did, which a lot of it's on here, but there's more details in that. So you can go through that, and what I really encourage you guys to do is to curate your own list of what you want to do before an open house, and create a checklist that you just go through. And there's even on there like things you want to have in your open house box, so that if you do get called the day before and they say, hey, can you hold this house open tomorrow, you've got all your stuff kind of ready to go. Not as optimum as being able to prepare the whole week before, but maybe it's one you held a week ago and it's easy enough to do again. Or maybe it's not, but you can go on the fly if you need to. So it's your go bag basically for an open house. So I will, so now, you've chosen your stage wisely, you've properly promoted the open house, you've come prepared with knowledge, you've prepared your stage for a good first and lasting impression. Now you need to go to the open house with the right attitude. So a great attitude is not the result of success. Success is the result of a great attitude. Earl Nightingale, doesn't get much better than him. But the attitude you have to start the open house is really key. I bet when Mace goes to an open house now, he's seeing that I can get a client, like every open house. And really, that was kind of the attitude I went into with each one. I thought, if I'm gonna put all this effort and energy into an open house, I'm gonna walk away with a client. And I can honestly say, I didn't hold a lot of open houses, but when I did, I generally would get a client. Sometimes I was blanked, but then I might get, at the next one, a listing in, and they were gonna list and buy. So that's 2, so that's spread out. So, and Mace may be able to look at it that way too. If he gets 4, some of those I know have been listings and sales. So, you know, he's in essence gotten 2 clients sometimes. Or Steve just sells the house to the client, and then he's got 2 that way too. But at any rate, you got to go into it with the right attitude. You've got to believe that you're going to get a good client, either a listing, a sale, a buyer, whatever. The other thing that I did is I believe this to the core of my being, and I think you all need to kind of. I know I could probably tell you which ones of you in this room really believe this and which ones don't yet. But there are a lot of bad realtors out there. I think we can all agree on that. But if someone comes into my open house, I know there's a lot of bad realtors out there. And I don't want anyone to get stuck with those ugly stories. And I know I'm going to take really, really good care of anyone that comes to that open house. So I'm not trying to get them as a client because I have dollar signs in my eyes or I need this sale or it's really, I want to take care of that person. I really want to take care of that person. And as Bo would say, you know, I want to protect them. I want to help them get the most money they can. I want to save them money, and I want to protect them. And that was the best mantra I ever heard put out there. And I really do believe that. And those are the things you want to communicate to a client when you're trying to talk to them. But you also have to believe it first to the core of your being. And so I believed I could get a client from an open house, and I went in with that attitude. So everybody that walked through, they're a potential client, and I'm going to interview for that job. And then also, I'm going to protect them. If they really are out there looking, I know I could be the best. I would be their best agent, right? Best agent in the universe, Kasha?
Yes.
I'm the best agent in the universe, and you need to work with me if you want to be protected. And so you got to believe that. And then before I go into an open house, and really this is any appointment, but I really did spend time in prayer before I came to this meeting. Time in prayer. But there's a few verses that I really hold dear, and one of them is Proverbs 16:3 that says, "Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established." I think that's powerful. And other scriptures, "I am His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works."
What's that one?
I didn't write down that one. I knew somebody would ask me. The next two I don't have them down. I can look them up for you though. That which God prepared beforehand that I should walk in them. I think it starts with this, I think it's Colossians.
Might be
And
Philippians.
then work heartily as for the Lord and not for men. And so ultimately He's my audience, and I want to be doing the right thing in His eyes. So going back to Bo and Boisms, and Steve, you hit on this too, but if in fact I'm going to do all that preparation and I really do want to get a client and I want to be out there protecting people, I am amazed at how short people do open houses. If I'm going to put all that energy in, I'm not going to do it for 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to do a much longer open house. And Bo, who did 24 transactions his first year, he would start earlier and go later than anybody else. I mean, 10 to 6 was a short open house for him. And the other thing he did, a lot of midweek open houses. And it's funny, it isn't like you're going to get a ton of business necessarily driving by and coming in on a midweek open house, but I'll tell you what, you are never going to get a client that just walks up and knocks on your door when you're working from home, or walks back here into the office and says, "Amy, will you come work with me as a good buyer?" But if you're at an open house, a midweek open house, somebody may drive by and say, "Oh, I've been curious, I want to check that out." And that person is probably in early stages, and you could get them as your client. So
Angie, another point. When you have to put this much prep into an open house, why not hold it more than one time? Because the prep only has to be done once.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
a good point.
So, so again, going back to I want to make you money, save you money, and protect you, how do you do those things? And again, it goes back to you got to believe it. You got to believe it first before, and whether you believe it or not, you're right. So you've got to believe it. So when people come in, how do you greet them, and how do you start the conversation? What is your mindset there? Go, Kasha.
No, I'm just laughing. Sorry, Dorsa. Remember how I greeted the one couple? She sat at my open house this weekend, and not a couple. Mom and daughter came in with, I thought, their baby girl toddler. So and it tripped coming in, and I was like, "Oh, are you okay?" And then so they got up, etc. And I was like, "Oh, your little girl's so cute."
It was a
It
boy.
was a boy.
Oh no.
It had a ponytail and the
It was
most pretty
blonde.
hair.
Yeah.
They them.
You got to be careful. Don't ever ask any woman, how far along she is in her pregnancy.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
All you have to do is one time do that and say, "I'm not pregnant," to mess
Unless she
that up.
brings it up.
Huh?
Unless she brings it up.
Well,
Yeah.
she says, I'm gonna say yeah, but I've never said that. So
Well, that's okay. I've done it twice, so I've even does that.
I was with you once.
I did it one time, and she had already had the baby.
That's what Angie had.
That's what I did. And then the other gal had a tumor.
Oh,
It's like, oh my gosh. It's like, she goes, no, I get asked that a lot. It's like, oh my
What are you
gosh.
gonna name your tumor?
It's a girl or boy?
It's not a-
What was your original
It's
question?
not a.
Yeah, what was it? Who knows?
How do you
How
greet?
can you,
How do you greet them?
Oh,
How do you greet?
right, how do I greet them? Okay. So how did I greet them, person?
You were very warm and welcoming. It wasn't the same words necessarily every time,
Mhm.
but kind of customized to each person who walks in. Like a family, I feel like you greeted them differently than the lady who walked in alone, who lived in the neighborhood.
Yes.
So because it was catered to each
Excellent.
person's needs.
And you know, and that's the truth. There's not a perfect formula, but I think there's mindsets that are correct. So we all agree, you want to stand up, greet them, friendly, warm smile, and confidently. I think the thing I always did when I did an open house was I wanted to learn their story. So you need to ask open-ended questions, not yes or no. Although, if I suspected they lived in the neighborhood, I might say, hey, do you live in the neighborhood? You know, I might say something like that just to break the ice. But more often, I would say something along the lines of, what brings you in today? And because that's an open-ended question. They can't say yes or no to that.
See, here's the thing, Angie. You don't need to customize every person's thing. That's too hard. Because if you only have the same thing for every person, they only hear it once. It's not like they're coming back 10 different times and you got to change it every time. If you've just got one, and I like, what Bo said years ago, what brings you in? Because they can't say no, they can't say yes, and it starts the conversation.
Right. And that's the main thing. Try not to do a yes/no question because you'll get shut down pretty quick. And so you want to kind of have more of an open-ended. And that was the question I always used. What brings you in today? Because I wanted to learn their story. And so then and where it gets hard to role play a little bit, we'll do some of that. But where it gets hard to role play a little bit is that, you don't know, you build off of whatever they say.
Right.
And so, and every person's going to be a little different. The main thing is, again, mindsets. Don't hammer them with questions. You can have a build conversation, but don't hammer. And don't blast information all over them. Don't vomit information on them. That's not showing your knowledge. It's got to be more conversational. One of the most powerful ways to work with people, especially when you're trying to maybe close for the appointment and they're giving a little resistance, I found once I knew their story, I could use a story to help move them in my direction. And what I mean by that is to maybe share, oh, I had another client that was in your same situation, and da-da-da-da-da. And so, and if you didn't have a client, but you knew of somebody else on the team that did, well, I know of a client that da-da-da, you know, it sounds like it's your client. You don't have to say one way or the other. But that's one of the things I would do. And the other thing I would do is oftentimes people are early in the stages, or they don't want to put you out, but bottom line, they don't want to be pushed or pressured, and they feel like at the moment they meet with an agent, now all of a sudden, the floodgates are open, we got to go. And I'm not ready for that. And so they push off meeting with an agent for a consultation. So one of the things I would often say, this was my line, if I were in your situation, I would want to get the information, but I wouldn't want to be pushed to move forward right away. But information helps you decide what you're going to do. And this is where I could even use a little kind of a generic story, but say, I find that when people are starting, they want that information, but they don't want to be pushed into moving forward to gain that information. And they aren't even sure if they want to do it. Like, I had a client that one time was thinking about moving. They wanted to move into this neighborhood, but they weren't sure. And so what we did is I went in and I gave them a market evaluation on their home so they knew for sure what their value was, and that helped them, gave them knowledge. And then we went and previewed some of the homes that they loved from the outside, but once they got inside them, they realized, this floor plan just doesn't really work for us as well. And so they decided that they really were happiest staying put. And that's okay too. So in getting information doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to move forward. It means you're going to have the right information to make an educated decision as to what you want to do. So I give people kind of that release valve, if you will, that getting information doesn't mean we move full speed ahead. It means you get information and then you can kind of decide what you want to do. The other thing that often happens is people want, we're not going to do something for like 6 or 9 months. Well, 2 things on that. First of all, people, once they get the bug, it generally moves faster. Not always, but generally they're going to move a lot faster than what they say. So 6 months all of a sudden becomes 2 months. And but also, I love to work with people early on and help them put together a strategy for moving forward. That oftentimes, especially first-time home buyers, oh my gosh, they may need to. Sophia, nice to meet you. I know you have to leave early.
Thank you so much. Good seeing everyone. I learned so much. Thanks for inviting me.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Bye-bye. But so often, what was I saying? I lost my train of thought, darn it.
Strategy.
Oh yeah, strategy there may be things they could be doing right now that would help put them in position better to buy in a year from now that they don't even know about. So it's really good if we could meet. First of all, I'll give you a little kind of roadmap to home ownership, especially for a new home buyer. Kind of show you what the steps are going to be, just so you got that information. But then also, let's meet with my lender, Tom. He's got a wonderful program that he puts together, and I'd have better verbiage if I was doing this all the time. But what's he call his program? Do you know? Smart Sell. We'll just name it. Okay. Smart Buy. But yeah, it's
a loan analysis.
Yeah, loan analysis that gives you just really good strategies, different ways you can structure things, and also he'll give you advice on how you can give yourself the best FICO score and stuff, how to build your FICO score to the best it can be and stuff. So there's a lot we can be doing right now, even though you're not looking to do something for a year off. As soon as you can have that consultation meeting, that first meeting, you've got a client. Well, first of all, because they've got to sign with you. But even if you don't sign them then because they want to wait a year to do something, you've got them in your pipeline now, and you've worked with them enough, and they've seen and build confidence in your knowledge. They're going to want to stay with you and work with you. So,
Angie, can I just say something?
Yes, please.
I love that story where you told a story, you met with somebody, they decided not to sell.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's better than telling them a story that we met and they found out they could sell, now they own a home. Because that's the pressure. When you say, when we meet, you may find out that you can't qualify. And at least you know you can't qualify, and then you're gonna have what you have to do, before you can qualify. So telling that story that way, I think, is really good. One more thing I want to say, when I was talking to the Pool of Mace, and I think this is really good. He said he really focuses on talking 25% of the time and have them talking 75% of the time.
Yes.
So if you find yourself going on and on and on, you're probably going to lose them.
No, and that's why I say I don't give a lot of information. I tease with information. I could give them more expansively when we meet.
Correct.
And so that's why you have to know those things to talk, those talking points, and use those as tease points to get them to meet with you. And again, keeping in mind the things that are important to them. Let me share with you, when we meet, I'll share with you ways that I can literally save you some money from what other agents would do. And you need to know how you're going to do that. And I do have ways, but you need to know ways.
So I like that, Angie. So instead of telling them, like we used to have certain floor plans in the Del Lagos that were popular for a certain reason, instead of sitting there and telling them what's popular about every floor plan, Tell them if we take them out, I can point out what's popular and what's not in every floor plan. Don't give them that information right then. Make sure that you bait them, to go out with you. And once we go out, I can show you all about the Majorcas. I can show you things that nobody else would know. I've sold 500 homes here, and I can tell you things that you might not ever find out. But don't give it to them right there. Make them be your client. Only your clients get all the information.
Yeah. And another thing I like to talk about is strategy session or client consult, whatever you want to call it. But then I also, with buyers, let's go out and do a little window shopping. I know you're not ready to go yet, but you know what? Let's go out and do a little window shopping, and you can start to get a feel for different areas and different communities and where you might want to dream about ultimately going. But that's the other thing that I would do. So kind of, the other thing too, when you're talking to people, I always would expect that they're going to tell me no when I ask for an appointment the first time. I just expect the no. Like if they give me a yes, it's like, whoa, wait, and then I almost don't know what to say. It was like the first time somebody said, can we buy it all cash? I think so.
Let me check.
I mean, I've never seen an all cash buyer. Now we have that more frequently, but that was so weird. It was like, whoa. Plus the fact they weren't supposed to be buying for a year, and they bought that time out. They decided to buy, they were coming from, you know what I mean?
Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh, yeah. No reason, no wonder
Gordon.
they wanted to move. Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so we talked about the things you could kind of tease them with, but let's talk about some of the objections. And Mace was really cool. He gave me I think it was 5 or 6 big objections that he gets, and we've kind of touched on some of them. But we're working with another agent, or know an agent, or have an agent. How you kind of answered that a little bit, but how would you overcome that if somebody said that?
Have you signed a BRDC?
That's what Ed said. That was good. And or even to say, oh, who are you working with? And that way you kind of see if it's legit.
I had an idea on something, and I didn't mention it when you were talking earlier. You know how you text the person coming in the digital copy of that. You could, if they say they're working with another agent, you could say, would you mind if I texted this to your agent so they have the information?
If you're the listing agent, I think that's great. If you're not, what benefit?
Yes, I was thinking of it more because I want to follow up with that person. Yeah. Hey, your client came by this property. Yeah, you're right. That would be better. I was thinking.
Yeah, there's some strategies.
I don't do really analysis in our my listings.
Yeah.
Angie, if you can find out where that agent is from, and if they're out of area, you can. I wouldn't say you'd be stupid to use somebody out of the area to represent you in this area, but you can say that's interesting that you've selected an out of area agent to represent in this area. My question is like, how much do they know about this area?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to pound them, but you want to kind of float it out there and have them thinking about it. And it's not a matter of one of those things will probably turn it around. It's probably a matter of all the little things that you do that all of a sudden they're saying, they leave the house and they're thinking, maybe that agent we should work with.
Right. Okay, what about the one you're not looking to buy right now, too soon, we're still working on financing? These are Mesa's words. So
kind of covered that.
There. Yeah, so on that one, I might even ask, have you ever had anyone go through a presentation, kind of map out what the buying process is, or the selling process, whatever? And again, trying to get in early because it's never too early to start to build that information. I think a lot of newer agents, when somebody says that they're not in this time frame, let that go, or just gather information to follow up later. But no, you want to close for an appointment. You always want to get the appointment because you don't have a client until you get an appointment, or the signed contract.
And the other thing, you can say things like this. You can say, I've met with many clients that we waited too long to meet. I've never met with a client that we met too early.
That's good. Yeah, that's really good. And then any of the newer agents that have not met with Tom yet, to have him show you that program that I can't remember the name of.
Loan analysis.
It's just called market analysis?
Loan analysis.
Loan analysis. But you really need to sit down and see that presented. It's powerful, good, and most lenders out there aren't doing that. So it's really a good thing. And then you can talk more intelligently about it than even I am doing right now. Not very well. Yes.
Oftentimes about the agent, whether they have an agent or not, Oftentimes, I just assume they don't have an agent,
Mhm.
because if they have an agent, they're gonna come in and go, hi, my agent, blah, blah, blah. So if they don't, I'm gonna assume and talk like they don't, and if they do, they'll tell me and say, we have an agent, and I'll go, okay, who is it?
I agree. That's why I wouldn't ask if they have an agent. I would just act as if I am gonna be their agent.
100% agree.
The only
Actually,
reason
I'm
I
not
was
as I never
asking
asked
was
that
because
either.
in our trainings, that's how they, like, remember, like, 6 months ago, that we were trained, like, once that rule came out, that's
Well,
why
if
I was doing it,
well-
I didn't know we don't have to,
No,
so
you
now I
don't have
will.
to.
Yeah, no.
No,
No.
no, you really don't have to. So
You
the
can't
other-
show them property without a BRBC.
Correct.
That's different than asking, you have to ask somebody if they have an agent. You don't
Yeah.
have to ask. You just talk as if you're gonna be, you're becoming their agent. That's how I talk to them.
I like that. So this was another objection he had. Not interested in this house or the price or just getting ideas, looking to see something different. I'm gonna take this as, so they're kind of looking for decorating ideas. Oh, we're just out, being looky-loos, looking for decorating ideas or whatever. So, they look through the house, and at the end I might say, so did you get any decorating ideas? And kind of see where they go from there. And then to talk more along the lines, well, I understand that you're not really looking to do anything right now. You're just getting ideas. But I was wondering if you might help me with a quick little survey that I'm doing. Asking someone to help you. They generally will people like to help if they can. So it's really quick. It's just 2 quick questions. So these are the 2 quick questions that I asked. If you were to make a move, I know you're not looking to make a move right now, but what would be your biggest motivating factor? Now, if somebody asked me that or Ed that, I would say, well, nothing. I live in my dream home. I'm never moving. You're going to take me out with a tow tag. So you'd know right then and there, I am not a potential buyer or seller. I'd be very adamant about that. But most people are going to answer that. And maybe it's going to be the size of the home or the location or the amenities.
I want a downstairs bedroom. I'm getting older.
Yeah, so yeah. And so most people kind of in the back of their mind, even if they're not real serious, or they say they're just looking, but they're really, there's something more behind it. I mean, they stopped at an open house.
How did you phrase that question?
I said, and you'll be getting my
Survey.
notes too.
Okay.
If you were to make a move, and I know you're not looking to right now, but what would be your biggest motivating factor?
Another thing you can say is describe your perfect house to you.
Well, that could get off into the weeds a little bit.
Well, it can,
Yeah,
but
that
it's
would
the same
work.
thing. I mean, if they start saying, I'm gonna describe a house that's a $50 million home, but most people describe the perfect house. If they're really kind of serious, they're gonna say, well, one that had a downstairs bedroom, we don't have a view now, we want a view.
Mhm.
They'll start to go down that road.
And then the second question is, when would you want to make a move for that purpose? And all of a sudden you get kind of a time frame. And
The other thing you can say, if I found you the perfect home,
Mhm.
would you want me to call you and show it to you?
That's what Bo told me to say.
That's
I just
excellent.
got that from you.
yeah. So that's a good follow-up. But and you can kind of say, I'm just doing this survey to kind of see where people are that come in and out of open houses. So if you could help me with my quick little survey and just kind of have fun with it, like Ed says. And I'd go, it's real quick, I promise. Just kind of play it down. But then you've got some conversation going that you can build off of and see if they might be a little more serious than they let on initially. And then also knowing good switch properties, which I mentioned earlier by previewing, then you might have even a house that, you know what? I just saw a house that might really fit what you're saying. Would you want to just go take a look? And see if you set up a time. So sometimes you can pique people's, I remember we were at, this is so funny, Ed's always thinking real estate, and that's what, in best interest for people. We were at dinner over at, I think it was Tortilla Flats at the time, but we ran into our neighbor whose wife used to work with us, so we knew him well, and we knew he'd been renting in the neighborhood forever. And Ed goes, Terry.
Claim jumper, we're at.
Was it claim jumper? It's like, Terry, when are you gonna stop renting and buy?
I referred him to Steve and he bought the house through Steve the next week.
Exactly. And you know what? He
Terry
had
Parkin.
rented in that same house for 10 years, I think.
24 years.
Oh, 24?
Wow.
He
24.
bought that house and it appreciated $200,000, I think, in the few years he lived there. And so Ed made him money. See, that's a good story to tell
And
too.
I told him, I said, Terry, how much longer are you gonna be stuck in stupid, man? Let's just show you a house, right?
So
And
Terry didn't
I
even
told
know
him to call
that night.
Steve and it was in escrow in 4 days.
So Terry didn't even know that night that he was gonna buy a house, but he had the ability. He just hadn't really given it serious thought. So when you get people thinking about what might better their situation, and then you can help them meet that need, hey, you can have things happen, and you're protecting them and making them money.
And that was
in
two
this
sales.
instance.
Steve sold it later too, so
Yeah.
that worked out great.
Okay, not interested. We don't want to commit to an agent or don't want an agent. Ooh, I like that one. We used to get that in the day, but now they have to sign, kinda. So, how would you go against that when they say, I don't want to work with an agent. If you find this, that's what it used to be. Well, I'm looking for this. If you find a house like that, give me a call.
If they said they don't want to work with an agent, I'd say, tell me what that looks like.
Ooh, that's good, Ed. I like that.
Tell me what that looks like. And you know, one of the things I'd say, there's a lot of things you can say, but there's 382 things that are needed to close an escrow. Do you know all of those, or who does that's going to help you?
Yeah.
Because unless they're all done, it doesn't happen. So, I mean, and again, don't pound on it too hard. You have to kind of get a feel for, you know, where you're at with them. But I wouldn't, you know, lead with that. But I would ask the question. And a lot of times I like to do the Columbo thing. Like I know exactly what I'm going to say, and I kind of look like I'm thinking, even though I know exactly what I'm going to say, and I go, what would that look like? Even though I know exactly what I could have said, what's that look like? Instead of saying that, I said, what's that look like? So you make it look like you're forming that thought right there, where you could automate that thought in a second.
I like the "what's that look like" question because you can get to the core thing of what the ugly looks like to them. Like, why are they putting that resistance out there? And what I might go on and say, first, validating their feelings. I understand how you feel, but you actually might be doing yourself a disservice, and you can play into a little bit what Ed said. That if an agent says they'll kind of keep an eye open for your property that you're thinking about, truth is that agent probably isn't working with a lot of clients, and they really aren't out there doing a lot of business. Because anybody that's going to work really hard for you is going to want you to commit to them, and then they'll be all in working for you really hard. But if somebody's like not even caring to do that, they're not going to really care to look for property for you. So you're not really being represented. And then who's really going to protect you? There's 382 things that take place on a transaction. Is an agent that's like not even really in the business going to protect you that way? So I don't know, you know, I'm not saying you need to work with me, but I would seriously, if you want to represent your best interest, you should commit to work with an agent. So you should interview with a few agents and find out who would represent you the best, and then commit to work with that agent, and then they'll be all in to work for you. So something to that effect. I worded it a little better here, but that idea. Anyone else, anything else along those lines?
Oftentimes the buyers, I know how to address it, but the buyers will say, I want to work with the listing agent.
Yeah, okay. So
that's
how do you address that?
Well, you talk to them about that the listing agent has a fiduciary responsibility to the seller first and foremost. And so, you know, if you want full representation, if you want to be protected, if you want me to help you save money and all that.
Yep.
So you have to be able to talk about that from both ways.
Yes.
So if I'm not the listing agent, I'm going to say the seller's agent's job is to get the highest price they can for the seller. Is that the agent you want representing you? Okay. Then conversely, when they say I want to work with a listing agent, say the sales price that somebody's going to pay on this is going to be the same whether they buy it through me or through another agent. But if you buy it through me, I might be able to help on commission, so you might save a little. So are both true? They're both absolutely true. Okay. So you're making true statements, but you're only making the statement that might lead them to working with you.
Right. Yes.
I'm sorry, I had a question about the tell me what that looks like statement. When you're asking that, are you asking them what they think working with an agent would look like, or what they think they're gonna do not working
What
with
they
an
think,
agent?
okay, so what's it look like to not work with an agent?
Okay.
And so when they start down that process and they're saying, well, I'm just going to go out and, you know, find out people that are thinking of selling and stuff like that. And then you can start, you know, disarming that by saying, you know, so you might find a home eventually that you can look at, but I can show you 1,000 homes right now you can look at. I mean, what is the advantage? And if they get to where they still like their idea, you can always come to say, why don't you do both? Okay. why don't you go down this one road? If you think you can find something on you, go do it, okay? And then let me try to find you what I can. Why not do both at the same time? Because isn't your goal to get the right home for you at the right price? The goal isn't to not work with an agent, I hope. The goal is to get the right home. Doesn't that precede not working with an agent? If it does, let's go down both these roads at the same time.
And then they might say, well, I want to work with the listing agent, which then you go back to that dialogue. So sometimes there's multiple things you're kind of
And here's the
navigating.
thing, you know, when I do that, if I can see after I give them that one argument, I said, well, the seller's agent, their goal is to get the highest price possible, and they say, well, I still want to work with listing it. You're done. Don't go any further. Don't beat a dead horse.
Right.
Just say, hey, I totally understand. I can understand your perspective, and hey, good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck with it.
Here's the thing, I mean, when I talk about working with buyers, it's like real buyers will take every natural step along the way to progress towards buying. So if somebody's not willing to take those next steps, they're either not a real buyer or they're not your buyer. And not everybody's meant to be my buyer. It's like, it's okay. If somebody's gonna sit there and debate.
And you got to know when to give up. I mean, when I first asked Angie out, if she had said no, I might ask her one more time. But if she said, no, I have no interest in dating you, I never will have, I'm done. I'm not going to ask her again. She made it very clear. If the buyer makes it very clear, move on. I mean, don't beat a dead horse. But a lot of times when they say, well, I really don't want to work with an agent, at least give it one try. A little soft, move into the direction of, what would it look like?
Now,
And then all of a sudden they say, I don't really, it would look great to me and that's what I want to do. You're done. Just say, hey, I respect that.
Ed and I actually probably approach things a little differently, which is good because everybody here should approach things their own way. And you've got to, and like I say, if it's working, if you find the formula that's working, stay with it. If it's not working, you're not getting any results, then you probably need to go back and adjust the formula. But I would tend to be a little bit more tenacious than him. So I'm expecting the no, and I'm expecting to circle back around. So when I get the first no, I get into a little bit more conversation about whatever the scenario is, their situation, and then I'm going to come back in and offer again to meet with them for their best interest type thing. And I'll ask again, and I might even ask a third time. I probably wouldn't go past 3, but I'm expecting a no. I mean, we are so conditioned. If you go into a store and you're looking to buy a jacket, and the salesperson comes up and they say, "Can I help you?" It's like, "Oh no, I'm just looking." Now you're there to buy a jacket,
I
but
was
you
a
don't.
salesperson, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to get that. I figure the same thing with a house or an appointment, and so I'm expecting it, but I still want to offer the help and see if. When the salesperson comes by and starts making some recommendations because she sees what I'm looking at, all of a sudden, now I'm open to her working with me.
So,
get going.
and that's what you need to do. I've got some jeans on right now that I'm wearing today, these jeans.
true.
And Angie, we were out looking at jeans and they didn't have the jeans I wanted, the size I wanted, that I always buy. And the salesperson said, I'll tell you, I like the jeans that you wear. I used to wear those, but I ended up now I'm wearing these. And we went over and he showed me this pair and I bought them.
Yeah.
You know why? And I was only going to buy my one jean I've always bought for many years now.
Yeah.
But guess what? Now I have another jean I bought and now I have 2 brands I might buy.
Yeah.
And I don't like this one better. I like it as well. Okay. Maybe I'd even like it better. So the whole idea, had he just said, no, we don't have what you want, he'd have lost the sale. And this was Nordstrom's. They make commission.
Now,
So he
salespeople
probably
are
made
the
$10
easiest
on that.
people to sell. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, he wasn't mean. He gave me an option. I could have said, I'm not interested in looking like I'm looking at the jean you're wearing. I don't want to look like you. But if I would have said that, he'd go, okay, I tried. But you've got to, when you bounce off, stay with it for a little while. At the point you know that's dead, don't beat a dead horse.
Okay, got 2 more objections, and then we're going to finish up because we're running late. Sorry, but this is really good conversation, I think. Okay, so they say they're waiting for the economy to change, interest rates to drop, or the pricing to get better. How do you answer that? I'll give mine, and then you guys can throw in yours too. But I mentioned that there is actually, if you go online and Google the cost of waiting versus buying now. There are actually, just like there are rent versus buy formulas, there's these formulas. I would actually recommend doing that ahead of time for an open house, and you've got it there, because that is kind of a common thing right now. But the thing being, our inventory we need more inventory, even though inventory has raised. We're getting a little bit more, that has to do, I think, with pricing and the interest rates, that we're getting more inventory right now, not because we don't have enough buyers. But there are people probably waiting for the rates to drop a little bit. But the thing is, when rates drop, prices are gonna start to drive up because people will get into the market more, and it's all supply demand. So I wouldn't look that prices are likely gonna drop. You may feel differently, but this is what I would say. And then also, if in fact rates drop a little bit, but prices jump up, all of a sudden you've lost in that regard. And that's what these apps will show, or these applications.
The best thing I have for that is really simple and quick. That the best advice I can give to you as a buyer who's waiting for rates to drop, I would say this: buy now, because you buy the house, but you marry the house, but you rent the rate. Okay, you can change the rate later, but you can't change the house. So again, you marry the house and you date the loan.
Yeah, that sounds better. Okay, and then the other one he gave is, I'm just a neighbor or an investor. Those are very different. I'd answer differently. But again, going back to, if you're just a neighbor, okay, so you're not looking to buy right now, but and do your little survey thing with them again.
So if they're a neighbor, the first thing I say, if you're a neighbor, you're not just a neighbor, you are the neighbor. That's important. So let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The person that's gonna buy this house is gonna be the person that's gonna be your neighbor. Do you have any recommendations of people that you can refer to me that I might be able to sell it to?
I love it. That's great, Ed. Yeah,
Something
again.
I used like just this weekend too is a neighbor lady came by and I asked her how long did they live there, and she said over 10 years, but they're looking to get a bigger place. And I was like, oh, they're gonna list that one potentially. So like I ended up connecting with her, and it's not happening like anytime tomorrow, but
All of our neighbors are people that when we came over, I said, you need to move here. And I gave them Steve's number, and they ended up buying, KJ, all the different people. All my neighbors are people that when I would say, you need to buy here, I want to live next to you. And there's a lot of people like that. But, neighbors don't think of that, but I would always say that. And again, you try that line, if it doesn't work, then, you're not just a neighbor. I mean, don't you want to get somebody good in here? Give me some names, and we'll sell it to them.
Okay, so we want to finish strong. Closing down the open house, you need to leave things as you found them. So just that kind of common sense. I know you're tired after the open house. You're probably not looking quite as refreshed as this gal. But you need to call the listing agent and give them an update, or text them or email them or something, but give them the update so they can update their client.
Text them, that's
if it's
easy.
your client, yeah, have you do it. It's fine. If it's your client, be sure you get in touch with your
Before
client.
you leave the house, text them the update. First of all, it has to do with organization. I'm done. I can take it off my list. And second of all, Marisa, are you gonna like that? If I'm closing up right now, here's the report, here's the text. Does it get any better?
Doesn't get better. It drives me nuts to have to call an agent.
Right.
Me
and
too.
say,
I
You
don't
text
like
as you're closing the home, it takes you 60 seconds. That's it.
So you guys can be superstar agents if you give feedback right away. Awesome. Okay, then the next day, I'll give you a night off. But no later than the next day, you need to enter all the contact information that you might have gotten from the open house into your social sphere. Then do whatever the appropriate follow-up is with anybody. Add new emails to your newsletter if you have one. Hopefully you do. If you did a drawing, love the drawing. If you did a drawing, personally deliver the gift to the winner. Even if it's a gift card or something, you need to drop it by in person. That was how Michaela got her
She always
first
did it the
listing.
night of the open house.
And then the other thing to do is everybody that entered the drawing have a little consolation prize and personally deliver those too. You guys, that's how you start to really get business off of open house, when you're multiplying the effects that came from that one day. Seizing that day is so much bigger by doing the right prep and the right follow-up. Then make the appropriate contact with anyone you made an appointment with, and be overly attentive and invested in their best interests. So call them the day before, make sure that your meeting's all set still, and just really be sensitive to cultivating that client so they become yours. Final thoughts. Less than 10% of agents have any good follow-up, so they don't like open houses. They aren't effective. 1/3 of clients who come through, listen to this guys, 1/3 of clients who come through an open house will buy within 30 to 45 days. a third will buy within 6 months, and a third will never buy. So the follow-up's really critical, but that's a lot of money there. If you follow up too much, this is where agents also, I don't want to be pushy. If you follow up too much and they never buy, oh well. If you follow up too little and they buy with someone else, you just lost tens of thousands of dollars. That's a big oops. Remember, a large percentage of property sold is sold to neighbors or their friends and or relatives. So always thank those who stop by, preferably in person by doing the drawing. I think that's powerful. And then after you meet with a potential client, place all leads on a follow-up system. The money is in the follow-up. And that's where people, mess up. Ed does a wonderful class on how to organize leads. It's on 805 Academy, I'm sure. But you've got hot leads, warm leads, and then cold leads. All of those deserve follow-up in the appropriate ways. So, but with the proper preparation and the proper attitude, you too can master the art of really making great money on open house. I mean, we've got real people that have made great money off of open house. It's not just stories out there. These are people we know that have made really good livings off of open house. But you have to have the right attitude. And so with that, I'm going to let Ed finish with a little story about Corey. And I'm going to go get the treat started.
Oh, okay.
We get a treat?
Yeah, the stuff is right, and Steve can help you too. He's probably heard the story. The stuff right is back there, hon. The ice cream's in the freezer, and that's the bowls and stuff back there in the back. This is me. She wants me to tell the story that happened in 1992 when he was 10 and he's now 43 a couple days ago, or in a couple days. Okay, I'm going to tell a real abbreviated story. It's a 15-minute story. I'm going to tell it in 2 minutes. So Corey was playing, he's a really little kid playing in the major division, which is a high division of all, mostly 11 and 12-year-olds, and he was 10. And his team was a really good team. He was a catcher. He's a really good athlete. But so he competed pretty well. But he was, we actually won our league, and so we went to the Orange County playoff. We got to play for the county championship. And so we are in, we've had to win several games, and we've gone down to the wire. We're in the championship game against the best pitcher from Newport Beach that has ever existed, probably in Little League. Okay, he threw 3 no-hitters and he threw a 2-hitter against us and through the division championships. So, and through 4 games he pitched, there's only 2 hits off of him. Okay, well, we had been, we're at the end of the game and we're down 2-1. We had 1 run on a couple of errors and a walk batter we had. And all of a sudden, it's the last of the 6. We're down 2-1. If we're done, we lose the championship. So Corey comes up. Well, the first batter strikes out. The second batter strikes out. Now comes the number 9, David Warner. David Warner gets hit by a pitch. So he's on first base. So we have a runner on first. And next pitch we have is a kid called David Ardsma. And David Ardsma finally, he gets walked. So now we have 2 on and Corey comes up. This guy's is zooming the ball by Corey like it's nothing. I mean, Corey's a little kid. Corey was the second leading hitter in the league that year, but almost all his hits were bunts. So I'm looking at the manager and I'm saying, why aren't you giving him, this was the bunt signal for Corey. He can bunt and maybe get a hit here. And now we have the next kid, the number 3 hitter on our team, who's the best hitter in the league coming up. Why aren't you doing this? He's not giving him this. So the first pitch comes by and Corey swings. I mean, it's in the mitt before he swings. The second pitch comes and it's like in the mitt before he swings. And then Corey is standing up in the batter's box and you can just tell. And he steps out and he goes, this is the season. It's at the end. He's got 1 more pitch and we're done. The next pitch is pitched. Corey hits the ball off the center field fence, 2 runs score, and we win. So all the kids carry him off. We win the county championship and from this little kid. But that's not the story. The story is we're walking off and I got my arm around him. I said, Corey, when you stepped out and you took this deep breath, I'm dying. I'm sitting in the front row right there. Like, my kid is about ready to, and I'm thinking, and I said, so what were you thinking? He said, 2 things, Dad, 2 things. Keep my eye on the ball and you got to believe. That's what you always told me. You got to believe. And here's the story, guys. In this business and my the kind of the emotions here for seeing Corey and remembering this time like it was yesterday. But you got to believe in this business, man. If you don't believe, it's not going to happen, right, Marisa? And when you start believing, a lot of people start to have a little success and they start to believe. But if you can believe right away, you can shorten this process by a whole lot. So you got to believe, guys. You got to believe. Whatever it takes for you to believe, you got to believe. And if you do, and that's why prayer and your statement of attitude will prepare you to believe. And when you do, you're going to see, you're going to move a lot faster. True or not?
That is true, and I have to say, when I started, I didn't believe in myself. But I knew he believed in me, and that was all I needed. Oh, that's the truth.
Wow.
I believe that.
I honestly
I do.
did not believe in myself. Amy helped me. I believed in him.
Yeah.
Because he will get you what you need to be successful.
You know what got me and hooked me in really fast was, there was a name on that drawer for me. He knew who I was. And that was not my experience before.
Me the same.